lot of people think manic is the high and happy phase, and it can be, but it's also around an addiction, a gambling spree, a spending spree, an eating binge. That's a manic phase. Okay, so it's not always good. And then depression can show up as anger, checking out emotionally, or extreme fatigue. So those are the top 10. And as I studied the list, I knew I had the verbal, I knew I had the 7 bullying, and then the a little bit of the abandonment, no fault. So when you know what you are, then we do the severity levels, like I said, and then let's see how this shows up. So these are some ways. If you had trauma 7, and maybe the verbal messages or lack thereof, or the put downs that were negative, you can tend to be jealous and maybe even controlling. The jealousy comes from not feeling good enough. It's a lack of trust, a lack of self-confidence. You think your partner wants somebody else, even if they tell you, no, I'm in love with you. It's that underlying feeling of not being worthy or not good enough. And this can show up in business as well. Also, wanting control can come from that chaotic childhood when you couldn't control anything, and you grow up wanting to be an adult that has a lot of control. So this can be good in business, because if you control your business day, it can be very productive. But in relationship, it can be very straining on a relationship, especially a woman trying to control the man. There is society norms of the male ego, and a man doesn't want to be pushed around and told what to do. So very often those relationships don't work out. Perfectionism can come from, let's say, a little girl that had the alcoholic mom. If things weren't perfectly done, she'd be yelled at or screamed at. This could also lead to people pleasing. Well, if I get up in the morning, get my siblings ready and pack the lunches and get them dressed and get them to the bus stop, she won't yell at any of us. So I often hear later from a woman that's married say, I overdo for my husband and my kids. I do everything. And this is how I love them. And nobody loves me like I love them. But her boundaries are so stretched. And the guy would say something, well, I don't tell you to do all those things. If you just asked me, I'd help. But, they're taking advantage of her. So she feels resentful and exhausted and taken advantage of. But it's so in her norms to do that, to get love, you see.
So what do you do for someone in that situation? Because they're so used to, as you put, stretching themselves thin, right? They're doing
Right.
everything. How do you interject and say,
Well, we have to look
babe,
at their
honey,
boundaries, and we
exactly,
have to
and
look at
say,
the
what do we do?
family dynamic. Who's doing what, when, what chores are the kids doing? Usually these kids do no chores. And the mom's running around trying to do everything, and the guy's pissed off that she's angry all the time. It's a home and chaotic situation. So I got to refix the boundaries of the whole family in that situation.
And that's
Those that have abandonment issues, I want to make sure I hit on this one. This is where we see clinginess, anxiety in the relationship, codependency, and then those love addiction relationships, if there's abandonment from your childhood. Impulsivity, doing things in secret. This is when that child couldn't do anything without being punished. And as an adult, their thought process is, well, I want it now. I want the sports car. I'll just show up with it and tell her it's a big surprise, because she'll probably tell me I can't. So I'm doing it anyway. Or it's that impulse of the affair. Well, she turned me down last night, so I'm just going to be with her because she said yes. So it's that impulsivity, not worried about what the other person thinks. And when you get to that level, now you're in sociopathy, psychopathy, and narcissism, the high levels of this chart. And sociopathy is using another for pleasure, profit, or lifestyle advancement without remorse. They'll never apologize. They're always blaming. It's always someone else's fault. They don't take responsibility. So when I see things like that, I have to inform them that, this is coming from, that need to have things your way when you had nothing your way as a child.